Aww, animals.
The sad life and dark times of Tilikum the orca whale. On January 6th, the world's most famous whale passed away. SeaWorld announced that Tilikum the orca whale has finally died due to complications from a bacterial lung infection he'd been ailing from. Tilikum's health had been in decline for a few months, but the suffering he endured as a captive orca whale lasted for more than 3 decades. In 1983, then 2-year-old Tilikum was captured off the coast of Iceland, ripped from his family and taken to a marine zoo. A year later, Tilikum was then transferred to Sealand of the Pacific, a former marine park in Canada's British Columbia. Forced to learn tricks and perform for audiences regularly, it didn't take long for Tilikum to become aggressive toward humans. In 1991, 20-year-old part-time trainer Kelty Byrne was working with Tilikum and 2 other whales when she slipped into the pool. As she struggled to get out of the tank, the whales reportedly prevented her from doing so. Tilikum supposedly carried the young girl's dead body around on his back for the next 2 hours before staff were able to retrieve her. After Sealand of the Pacific closed down the next year, Tilikum was then sold to SeaWorld Orlando for $1 million. There too, the 1,200+ pound whale was kept in a small tank built to hold only 1/10,000th of the water an orca would normally traverse over a day in the wild. Experts say these conditions can lead to psychosis for the whales, and it wasn't long before Tilikum struck again. In 1999, a 27-year-old drifter named Daniel Dukes had somehow snuck into the park and dove into a breeding tank to go skinny dipping with the whale. The next morning, in a familiar sight, Dukes' body was found draped across Tilikum's back. The death was reported as a likely drowning, but that wouldn't explain all the injuries Dukes suffered. His body was covered in abrasions, and his genitals had reportedly been bitten off. Tilikum's murderous streak culminated in 2010, when SeaWorld trainer Dawn Brancheau was pulled down into the pool during a live performance, and held down until she drowned. Her body was later recovered with her left arm and part of her scalp ripped off. Brancheau's death was the focus of the 2013 acclaimed documentary Blackfish, which exposed SeaWorld's treatment of its orca whales and nearly sunk the company following an extreme public backlash. In response to the film, SeaWorld has since halted its captive breeding program and announced it would be phasing out its theatrical orca shows. In a statement, SeaWorld mourned the loss of Tilikum and noted the world-class care provided to him, and that he lived a long and enriching life while at SeaWorld. Rest in peace, Tilly. Hopefully, you're swimming through an endless ocean heaven, with plenty of fish to eat. No more tricks for you, big guy. Here are a few more videos about SeaWorld's treatment of its orca whales. SeaWorld announces the end of captive breeding for its orcas. Whale-sized news, animal lovers! Defamed marine theme park, SeaWorld, has waved a huge white flag regarding the nature of its operations. Captive breeding of its orca whales ends today. In an op-ed published in the LA Times, SeaWorld CEO Joel Manby announced the landmark move, which acts to keep the theme park afloat amid rocky waves for the company over the past few years. SeaWorld has been drowning in a sea of backlash following the 2013 release of the critically acclaimed documentary Blackfish, which details the horrendous conditions and psychological traumas the orca whales in SeaWorld's tanks have been subjected to for decades. The company initially scoffed at the notion that it was ever in the wrong, launching campaigns refuting the film's claims in attempts to protect its brand. In 2014, it even recruited crocodile hunter Steve Irwin's daughter, Bindi Irwin, who was 15 at the time, to be the new face of SeaWorld, hoping to win over lesser-informed animal lovers. But with relentless protests mounting, attendance dwindling, and its stock prices plummeting year over year, the company began making critical adjustments to project a transformation of its culture. Last year, SeaWorld announced it would be phasing out its orca whale performances at its San Diego park by the end of 2016, replacing them with a simulated natural habitat to offer visitors a better understanding of how the whales might behave in the wild. The company then got approval from the California Coastal Commission for a $100 million expansion to build these habitats, but only on condition that SeaWorld halt its captive breeding program permanently. After initially retaliating by suing the Coastal Commission, this new announcement paves the way for SeaWorld to begin transitioning from an entertainment business to one of education, research, and conservation. A 5-year, $50 million partnership with the Humane Society of the United States has also just been announced, so it appears SeaWorld is finally ready to swim in the right direction. As for the 29 remaining orcas at SeaWorld's 4 parks, the company says they will not be released, claiming the killer whales would not survive in the wild very long, having lived in captivity for most, if not their entire lives. Animal activists continue to fight for the freedom of the animals, saying seaside sanctuaries are better suited environments for the whales than tanks in a theme park. While many continue to question SeaWorld's motivations, as long as it delivers on its new promises, then we can all look forward to a whale of a good time for the children and orcas of tomorrow.
San Diego SeaWorld decides to end killer whale shows by the end of next year. They're majestic, darn cute, and they put on quite a show. But many have come to believe that orca or killer whale performances are not in the best interest of either the whales or their human trainers. On Monday, SeaWorld's chief executive Joel Manby said San Diego's theatrical killer whale experience will end in late 2016. The company says it will replace the famous Shamu Show with a new orca experience focused on the natural environment of the whales, which is a bit confusing as we thought their natural environment was like in the open ocean. What sparked the decision? Well, this 2013 documentary Blackfish might have had a lot more to do with SeaWorld's decision than they'd care to admit. Focusing on the 12,000-pound bull orca Tilikum, seen in this picture, the film showed his capture in 1983 off the coast of Iceland, his possible harassment by fellow captive orcas, and documented the circumstances that led to Tilikum's involvement in the death of 3 humans. When released, SeaWorld was highly displeased with the film, calling it inaccurate, misleading, and distorted. But Blackfish seems to have changed a lot of minds about keeping orcas in captivity. SeaWorld will not, however, be going Free Willy anytime soon, and will stop the shows only at its San Diego park, which saw visitor numbers drop 17% last year. Killer whale theatrical performances will continue at SeaWorld parks in San Antonio and Orlando. What do you think? Is it time to end making whales jump around for our amusement? Or is this issue not quite so black and white? Is SeaWorld genuinely changing? Or is this just a PC PR move to placate animal huggers in California?
Killer whale who was once free beaches herself after performing. Morgan the orca whale has endured a rough few years after being rescued from the waters near the Netherlands back in 2010. Found emaciated and dying, a local theme park, Dolphinarium Harderwijk, was able to acquire a rescue, rehabilitate, and release permit from the Dutch government that would allow her to be taken in. Morgan was brought back to full health, but rather than send her back to the wild as promised, she was taught tricks and kept in small tanks over the course of 18 months. Eventually, she was sent over to another theme park in Spain called Loro Parque, whose 6 orcas all happen to be on loan from SeaWorld. Activist organizations have reported that since she's been there, Morgan's been forced to perform for the public and is constantly subjected to sexual pressures by male orca whales, even though she's believed to be very young. This video, recorded on May 16th and released by Rickleberry's Dolphin Project, shows Morgan beaching herself on a concrete ledge after performance in the Canary Islands. According to witnesses, she waited there for more than 10 minutes. While many are speculating the act was a suicide attempt, other experts are not so sure, saying she may have instead been trying to escape from the other orcas bullying her. Morgan was the first wild orca brought into captivity in roughly 25 years, which could make her invaluable to captive breeding programs. In March, SeaWorld announced the end to captive breeding of their orca whales. While Loro Parque has promised to adhere to SeaWorld's changes, time will tell whether these parks are genuine in their commitment to stop breeding these majestic creatures. Fortunately, organizations like Rickleberry's Dolphin Project and the Free Morgan Foundation exist to combat Morgan's captors so that one day she may once again swim free.